Hi everybody. Today's video is part 4 in our series of how to dress your loom. We started with winding on, we strung the heddles, and now it's time to slay the reed. So I'm going to show you how to set it up to have your weaving centered in the reed and pull all your strings through with the correct spacing in between. Okay, so let's get started. And I want to try to give you a good look at my reed before we start. It's a little hard to see. It's old and rusty. Here's what it looks like from the front side of the loom. And it is inside the beater bar. There's 2 holes here on the side. That hole is on the frame of the loom, and this hole is on the beater bar. In order to hold the beater bar in place, you just move it forward and line the 2 holes up. Whatever pin this loom had originally is long gone, so I just use a crochet hook to slide through. It's metal, so it holds it in place and I don't have to worry about it breaking. You need the beater bar to stand upright while you pull the strings through the reed. And this is what it looks like. Alright, here's a close-up of the reed. This is a 12 dent reed, which means there's 12 spaces per inch. Okay, here's where some hideous math comes in. I know that each section of my warp beam equals 2 inches of width in weaving. My spool rack was meant to hold 24 cones. You can see the 2 on each end are just broken off, and basically there's just nothing left there. So since I know that each section on the warp beam equals 2 inches, which would be 24 strings, I have to accommodate for those 24 strings in the spacing here in the reed. So each one of these counts as a space. So as I pull each section of 20 strings through the reed, I have to leave 4 extra spaces to account for the fact that there's supposed to be 24 cones. So you can do that in a number of different ways, and I'll show you that as we start to actually pull the strings through. Before we actually start to pull the strings through, we want to make sure that our weaving is running in the center of the reed and the beater bar, and that helps keep your weaving nice and straight and keep your edges even. So since we know we're missing 2 cones on each end, we're going to want to count in 48 spaces from the very end. So you start with space 1 and count over 48 spaces, and that'll be the first place that your string comes through. I've counted off 48 spaces from the end. So I started with the first space here and counted 48 across, and then added 1. So the next one is 49. And right here is where we want to pull the first string through. Okay, first section, we're ready to start. So I take the set of 20 strings and just untie the knot we made. And then I pull them out and just use my fingers to kind of straighten them up a little bit. Okay, here's the first heddle with the first string of the section. So I'm going to take it, and we're going to go ahead and use this heddle hook here that I showed you earlier. And we're going to put it in our first space. And we're going to hook it on that hook at the top of the heddle hook. And just pull it through. And let it lay down. Let me go ahead and remove this piece of tape that we put here. All right, now we'll do the second one. We're going to come to the front harness now and get the second string. Pull it out. Stick your hook into the very next hole. Hook it. And pull it through. So there's the first two strings. Okay, we have the first two strings pulled through the reed, and I just wanted to show you the pattern. So the first string was through the heddle on the back harness, and then the second string was on the front harness, and then the third one will come to the front, and so on and so forth. The first section's pulled through the reed, and I wanted to show you what that looks like. And if you look, you can see there's 5 strings with a space, and then 5 strings with a space all the way through. So if you remember, I told you that we had to allow for the spacing in the reed to accommodate 24 cones. So that's what the extra space after each 5 set of strings is. You can do that any way you like and create different patterns in your string. You can do 10 strings and leave 2 spaces, and 10 strings and leave 2 spaces. You could do 20 strings and leave 4 spaces, and each one will create a different pattern in your strings when you weave. Okay, I forgot to tell you how I tie it off to the beam here, as I do each section. And I push down, if you can see, the right treadle, which opens up the strings and creates what they call the shed. And I do that after each section because it lets me know that I have everything strung right and running through the reed right. So we're finally done stringing the loom, and the last thing we need to do is tie off to the carpet roll and adjust the tension on the strings before we actually start to weave. So that'll be the next video. Go ahead and click the subscribe button so you make sure not to miss those when I post them, and I'm going to leave you with a look at the finished product. All the strings are done, 280 strings. Takes a while. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.